Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
One of Nickelodeon's best-loved cartoons takes place in a tide pool called Bikini Bottom. You guessed right, it's SpongeBob SquarePants. So what does this cartoon have in common with a real tide pool? SpongeBob creator Steve Hillenburg, an animator and former marine science educator, has come up with some fresh wackiness in his detailed tide pool fantasy environment. His zany characters include a sponge, starfish, crab, and plankton. Do these animals really exist in a tide pool? You are about to find out as we explore the habitat of tide pools. We will discover how tide pools are formed and learn about several animals that are found in tide pools. Tide pools are rocky areas on the edge of an ocean that are filled with seawater. Many plants and creatures live there. Life is tough for plants and animals that live in tide pools. Here, portions of the shoreline are regularly covered and uncovered by the advance and retreat of tides. In order to survive, tide pool life forms must avoid being washed away by the tidal waves, keep from drying out in the sunlight of low tide, and avoid being eaten. Tide pools are subdivided into 4 zones. They are the splash zone and high tide, mid-tide, and low tide areas. Some of the animals you might see in a tide pool are starfish, anemones, sea urchins, barnacles, crabs, kelp, and other sea plants. Tide pools are unique animal habitats that are constantly changing as the tide goes in and out. Many different kinds of animals inhabit tide pools and depend upon each other for survival. For people who live along rocky coastlines, tide pools can be easy and rewarding places to visit and learn about marine life. When visiting tide pools, it is important to remember that sea stars, urchins, anemones, crabs, and other animals should not be taken from their natural homes. Life in a tide pool is as different and varied as life in the ocean can get. So you see, the habitat and animals that are part of the SpongeBob cartoon really do reside in tide pools.